Hi, this is Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting at FileMaker DevCon 2015. And today I'm interviewing Ryan Brandis of BrandMuffinIndustries.com. And he's a FileMaker developer and has a whole lot of other tools in his tool chest and other things he does. Good morning, Ryan.
Cool, good morning.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
And tell me more about yourself.
Sure. Well, I've been using FileMaker Pro since I was 10 years old. When I grew up in a family that was running a family business, and my father said, "Son, our accountant quit. Here, learn this." And it was FileMaker Pro 3.5 on Mac OS 8, OS 9, those days.
Yeah,
so I kind of got started with that. And even though I had a lot of engineering skills, I decided to go into business school and get a business degree because I saw that a lot of engineers, whether software engineers or hardware engineers, the joke is that they take engineers and put them in a cage in the basement and slip them food through the bars of the cage and say, "Hey, build this and maybe we'll feed you today." And I looked at the jock idiots going into management. I said, "Shit, I can handle that." And so I go to management school and focus on entrepreneurship and learn basically what it's like to be a CEO and how to manage and run a company.
What school did you attend?
I went to University of Illinois.
Okay.
And before that I went to a community college which had some really unique opportunities. They said, "Look, here's a literary arts magazine and submissions pour in through the slot, run the magazine." So I deployed a FileMaker solution that ran the magazine and walked us through every phase of publication at around 17, 18, 19 years old, figuring all that out and getting college credit for doing it.
Better.
Yeah. And then at that point, I finished my bachelor's degree and I got a career in smartphone development. So we designed and developed some really cool smartphone apps. My favorite one is Cobra iRadar. You guys remember Cobra, the folks that make the radar detectors?
Yes.
Well, we came up with an idea to say, all right, if the radar detector is suction cupped to the windshield, let's go over Bluetooth to the smartphone, develop an app that will crowdsource where all the cops are hanging out in real time, upload that to a database, push that out to all of our users, and give us that predictive capacity that we called threat level topography. Okay. So we wrote up the patents for that. I got a patent granted for that, and now you can get Cobra iRadar in the App Store. And it was one of the first accessories because it leveraged, you write the app in Xcode, it goes over an accessory to talk over Bluetooth to the accessory, and then you've got all the stuff that's tied into consumer electronics, and you get to sell a product in a box through brick and mortar retail, which is something that Cobra's been doing for many years.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting mix of all that stuff. So doing plenty of that. And it was a lot of fun and exploring. All right, here's the best career that my management degree can get me. But you know what? On the side, I was still doing FileMaker development. And it turned out I was making more per hour as a FileMaker developer, as something I was doing as a hobbyist and self-taught than everything my school could give me. So now I've gone back to FileMaker development. And now I've got some very cool clients.
And so you've got a lot of clients that you do FileMaker development for, and you're always, I'm sure, on the lookout for new business.
Oh yeah.
Just like we all are. So.
Well, let me tell you an interesting story. Here's what we're tackling right now. Is we've got a business environment where they're trying to make these metal products. So it's literally an environment where there are milling machines and metal shavings on the floor, and we're going to have iPads in these rugged cases. So the user interface has got to be designed for people that have leather welding gloves on their fingers, to try and do their stuff. So it's
put some kind of contact on that glove so that their finger will work.
Yeah. So or maybe they'll take the glove off to do it. But let's just say it's a very dirty environment.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting user interface design. And what it turns out is when you've got a company where you've got a lot of labor, building stuff, that there's a lot of employee turnover. Okay. That when one guy leaves and a new guy comes in, he doesn't necessarily train the guy 100% of all the things he used to do.
So how do you handle that issue?
And is it all documented? Right. So we've discovered that if we can, within the user interface, actually walk them through what they're doing and explain to them why they're doing it, that will help them and the next guy. So the instruction manual is built into the interface where they track they got it done. It also teaches them how to get it done.
Do you use videos in that?
But I don't know if that's really necessary. A lot of it is hands-on.
We found that in our stuff that videos in some instances are perfect, better than actually writing it all up. And make them short, 2-3 minute videos. And then when somebody comes on board, boom. And usually it's like Camtasia, like we're going to be using for recording these things here and processing the video and all that kind of stuff. But you can also do screen capture and things like that, and zoom in with the mouse and cursor and things like that. So it's really kind of nice. But it's interesting, building all the help stuff in on something of production where there's an environment where there's a lot of turnover is really a key thing.
Yeah.
And you like everyone, I think, address the processes and the procedures and the documentation, the systematization, the database or the business processes, so that people can get more efficiencies, better data, better reports.
Yeah, and how can you really design an interface, if you've got this really long process and you've got 5 or 6 different people that touch that process at different areas, can you give them checkpoints and sign-offs that this was yellow, turn it green, chase the yellow stuff, turn it all green, if there's a problem it becomes orange, and that way there's a lot of issues with the language barrier are solved. Maybe not everybody using the interface speaks English, so they can chase yellow and make stuff green, and you also can use a fair number of symbols to mean stuff, and trying to move away from a lot of text. If you can use symbols to indicate the state of stuff rather than text to use to indicate the state of stuff.
In 14 with the new button bar, it's got the built-in symbology. So yeah, that's really nice. Yeah. So tell me something about where you operate out of. You said the Chicago area.
Yeah, so I'm
here.
I'm in Chicago and in Vegas. Okay. So I've got clients on the West and East Coast, and I really try and bring a system design and a management design into the development. So I'm not just a coder. I will actually help you figure out and understand your process better than you thought you understood it, and we'll develop really the best thing that you need. And the joke is a lot of clients come to you thinking they know what they need, and then once you analyze and understand their process and literally spend time meeting the guys on the shop floor doing the work, then you really understand the process, and then you can figure out what really needs to be built. And it's an iterative thing in that you try it, you play around with it. All right, this can be improved here, this can be improved there. And what I like about FileMaker is, yes, there is some initial upfront cost for paying for all the licensing, but the speed at which you can deploy stuff beats the heck out of all the other alternatives. Okay.
Yeah. So your total development cost is a whole lot less than somebody doing a PHP MySQL. That's going to be 25, 30 grand more.
And believe me, I tried all the open source stuff. I'm very good at Linux. I did the PHP thing. I did the SQL thing. And if you
Xcode.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So if you change the name of a field in SQL, it breaks it in 50 friggin' places. So we complain about the few FileMaker workarounds we have to deal with, but try another language.
It's much more difficult. I won't argue that, but we do get to integrate with them. Yeah. And cherry pick the stuff we want to do. So that's really good. What do you do for fun?
Sure. So for fun, I play with DeLoreans. You remember Back to the Future?
Back to the Future. There's still some around, huh?
Yes, they made about 8,000 DeLoreans between 81 and 82 in Ireland. And now there's a club, a community, nationwide and also in Europe. We know where about 5,000 of those cars ended up. Any 1,000 are driven any particular day. There's 6 dealers throughout the country that will maintain the cars and repair them for you. And there's a very vibrant community. So there's a little Doc Brown in all of us.
Does your fusion reactor work real well?
Well, yeah. I mean, a number of people will mock the cars up to look like Back to the Future. So we'll have time circuits and flux capacitors, and a lot of the Back to the Future stars will actually come out to DeLorean events and hang out with us, which is cool. So I built one of the first DeLoreans that was converted to electric drive. I'm a big environmentalist. Okay. So we took the combustion engine out of a DeLorean and put it in a big lithium-ion battery pack to kind of make a DeLorean/Tesla. Yeah. So that was a fun project. And I've also got a DeLorean with a PowerPoint projector in the hood. And that way you can actually pull up to a car show, pull up the hood, and you've got a movie theater and office wherever you park. And because it's a Mac, it runs FileMaker Pro if you needed to, But that was kind of a gag. So I'll give you some.
Neat.
I'll give you some slides for that, and you can throw that in.
Yeah, I'd love to have that. Yeah, please do. So. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I got some.
Well, let me just tell you my favorite FileMaker story.
Okay.
Okay. I was looking at buying some real estate. So they had some short sale auctions where you go and there's an auctioneer saying this property, this much money, blah, blah, blah. And I would expect if it's held in January, it's going to be indoors. Well, here in Vegas, it's not. Right. So we're literally out in the middle of a parking lot doing what I would call a real estate tailgate party. And I came totally unprepared because I had no idea what to expect, but there are a lot of people who have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
So you show up, the guys have these tents, you know, they have their hot coffee mugs set up, they've got their computer, I mean, these guys are rugged.
This is what they do.
They are all set. And I look down and this guy's got a laptop, and I look in the upper left-hand corner, he's running FileMaker Pro. He's built his own custom solution where as the properties come up from the auctioneer, they're turning colors, he knows the exact LTV. I'm like, that's it, I'm out of here, I can't compete with this.
That's neat, somebody who's doing it on their own like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's a programmer or just...
Well, that's the thing, is FileMaker a niche where people that are dentists learn just enough FileMaker to run their dentist business, you know, and is that their target, or are there literally big companies that have 50, 80 employees that need professional developers to upkeep a huge system that runs a big company? And we see both. Yeah.
No, it is both, because I know some doctors who run clinics in Albuquerque, for example. He's written some really good stuff, and it's taken several years. He's become a great FileMaker developer, and he quotes some meetings and stuff like that. He's one of the few that goes that in depth, though. And I know another doctor in Florida that did this. He's in my FileMaker user group virtual meeting. So. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I would say is I'm a member of a lot of those FileMaker user groups. There's one in Chicago that meets. It's called the Chicago Area FileMaker Developer Association, CAFTA, and it's hosted by Soliant Consulting there in Chicago with great people. And what you find is there are a number of developers that are 50, 60 years old. They're getting ready to retire. And they've developed a pretty good book of business over that time. They probably were working on FileMaker since the OS 8 days, you know. So as they're getting ready to retire, where are the young people that are going to carry that torch and take that book, moving forward? Yeah. And we see a lot of the young people in their 20s and 30s, they're doing Ruby on Rails. They're doing pure JavaScript HTML5 stuff. That's where the young people are focused. But is that where the jobs are? Is that where the good wages are? Because I can tell you that if you try and find a JavaScript programmer, you can get them from any country in the world very cheap. So
that's a good question. I've seen more people, and there's a lot of young people at this conference. It seems like there's a good mix.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for the future.
Oh yeah, I am too. And to see that there are a whole bunch of new features coming, that FileMaker is really investing in
speed up the process,
and speeding stuff up.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. Very hopeful for the future of FileMaker. It certainly is not it's not going down anytime soon.
I agree. Well, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it, Ryan. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Great.
One last thing is Don Clark at FileMakerProGurus.com, and this is Ryan Brandis of
BrandmuffinIndustries.com.
Okay, because we want to put that big plug in there for you. Thanks,
Sure.
And we're signing out from DevCon for this interview.